think, act, and prosper. You are now tuned into the Money Level Show.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Money Level Show, where we think, act, and prosper. And today we got some more grim news coming out about the food shortages. I actually took a little break. I was focused on some things at home. I had a really busy, stressful week last week. So I haven't been as tuned in to what has been going on, and you all seen that I didn't upload anything for about 4 days or something like that. But I want to dive into some of these things that I'm seeing. I was on my Twitter, Doomberg highlighted a few different articles, and then I was also seeing some other information come out, so I did some more research. But we're going to look at a few articles just about what's happening with the food shortage. I mean, there's a lot of things that have come out. We had a formula shortage. We're having wheat shortages, all those different things, and we've talked about that for a while. The formula shortage is new. But the supply chains are looking really, really bad, and I want to just really dive into this. So let's go ahead and dive in. All right, our first article. I do not have a Bloomberg subscription. They probably won't ever get my money. All right, maybe Wall Street Journal. I don't know about Bloomberg. But stressed out supply chain managers are throwing in the towel. Separation rate increased by 28% last year. LinkedIn. Burnout, search for higher pay spur people to leave jobs. Search for higher pay, Supply chain managers quit their jobs last year at the highest rate since at least 2016 due to a mix of burnout and desire for fatter paychecks. The high rate of turnover aligns with the escalation of supply chain woes in 2021. The pandemic led to shuttered manufacturing plants, backed up ports, and rapidly increasing transportation costs. Those headaches have largely fallen to supply chain managers to sort out, making their jobs far tougher, but also more lucrative. So their jobs is getting harder, and they're still getting paid the same amount of money. So I can see why people are leaving. Plus, you have inflation. So inflation is taking up a lot of people's purchasing power. With increasing opportunities against the backdrop of the supply chain crisis, it comes as no surprise that supply chain managers have increasingly sought out greener pastures. So they're leaving. LinkedIn, a division of Microsoft Corp, calculates turnover by analyzing member profiles to determine the number of people who left their jobs each month. The figure is compared with the average for 2016, which LinkedIn calls the separation rate. For supply chain managers, the average separation rate increased by 28% from 2020 to 2021, according to data compiled for Bloomberg. That's the highest since LinkedIn started tracking the data 5 years earlier. Burnout is part of the equation, Cantinga said. I don't know, I butchered that probably. New opportunities are also playing a role, in part because ongoing supply chain disruptions are fueling demand for professionals who can deal with them. So we see that the vacancies are rising with managers quitting their jobs. They're saying, hey, you're not paying me enough. This is stressful. It's one thing after another, and they are leaving. And I remember the term the Great Resignation. So, I mean, this may be connected to that. So what came first, the chicken or the egg? Let's see. So this is an article that came out late last month that talked about a egg shortage, farmers warning as chicken feed price doubles. So the price of feed is doubling, and now you have egg shortages because it's harder to feed the chickens. The UK could face an egg shortage if retailers do not start paying more, farmers have warned. Wheat, a key ingredient for chicken feed, has almost doubled in price because Russia and Ukraine produce about 30% of the global supply. And to be honest, I don't think this is going to really end well for Russia. I mean, in a situation, it's getting out of hand. A lot of people are being impacted by the situation, and I think at some point the powers that be are going to cause some uproar. I mean, I don't think it's going to be pretty. I don't think it's going to end well for anyone involved. The EU, the US, Russia. This conflict is just continuously causing so much damage to the global economy. We're seeing globalization decline drastically. So countries are not collaborating as much, all types of things. So I just don't think it's going to end well for people. I think it's a lose-lose situation. Farmers are calling for a 40p increase. I don't know if that's pounds or what. Increase in the cost of a dozen eggs to meet the rising costs. We're going to have a desperate egg shortage by Christmas if things don't change. So, yeah, so it's getting bad. Then you got Malaysia, came out on May 24th, which is actually today, the day I'm recording this. Malaysia to halt chicken exports from June amid shortage. Malaysia will halt exports of 3.6 million chickens a month from June 1st and scrap the approved permit requirement for importing wheat until production and prices stabilize, Prime Minister Ismail said. The government set a ceiling price of 8.9 ringgit, that's $2.79 per chicken, and said it would recognize more slaughterhouses abroad in a bid to boost local supplies and curtail rising prices, according to a statement on Monday. The measures come days after Ismail abolished the approved permit rules for imports of food items, including chicken, coconut, and evaporated milk, to secure adequate food supplies in the country. The move is likely to impact neighboring Singapore, which sources a third of its chicken supply from Malaysia, according to data from a Singapore food agency. The Malaysia Competition Commission is investigating reports that there are cartels that control the price and output of chicken among large companies, Ismail said, promising stern action against those found sabotaging supply. Malaysia joins other governments in taking steps to secure their own supplies, with food costs surging to records as the Ukraine war chokes crop supplies, piling inflationary pain on customers. Food prices in the Southeast Asian nation jumped 4% year on year in March, the most since December 2017, as the cost of chicken and vegetables spiked more than 10%. All right. With food prices continuing to climb, the UN is warning of crippling global shortages. Fears of a global food crisis are growing due to the shock of the war in Ukraine, climate change, and rising inflation. Last week, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres warned of the specter of global food shortage in the coming months without urgent international action. The UN estimates that in the past year, global food prices have risen by almost 1/3, fertilizer by more than half, and oil prices by almost 2/3. According to UN figures, the number of severely food insecure people has doubled in the past 2 years, from 135 million pre-pandemic to 276 million today. Now more than 500,000 people are experiencing famine conditions, according to the UN, an increase of more than 500% since 2016. In Ethiopia, Somalia, and Kenya, the number of people facing extreme hunger has more than doubled since the last year, from roughly 10 million to more than 23 million today, according to the report. Across the three countries, the report notes one person is likely dying every 48 seconds from acute hunger-related causes stemming from armed conflict, COVID-19, climate change, and inflationary pressures worsened by the war in Ukraine. All right, I don't get joy reading this stuff, y'all. This stuff really, hurts to see, how people were really impacted by these leaders' decisions and everything, and now it's just crazy. World has 10-week supply of wheat. Expert tells UN Security Council this is seismic. So I mean that's one thing. 10-week supply of wheat the world has. Russia-Ukraine war. Millions could die globally from wheat shortage, Egypt warns. Egypt has been hit particularly hard by the wheat shortage, as it is the world's biggest importer of the grain. Increases in food prices triggered by Russia's war in Ukraine could kill millions of people globally, Egypt's finance minister has cautioned, echoing warnings made by the UN and G7 countries over the worldwide wheat shortage. Mohammed Maid, I think I said that right, expressed concern regarding food insecurity around the world in an interview with Financial Times in London, while insisting that Egypt has enough wheat to last until the end of the year. Ukraine and Russia are among the biggest producers of and exporters of wheat, corn, and cooking oil, the global supplies of which have been threatened since Russia's 24 of February invasion. This is something that we have to be very careful about. We will feel shame if we find millions of people are dying because of food insecurity. They are not responsible for that. They didn't do anything wrong. Exactly what I've been saying. I mean, somebody got some sense in their head. You know, we have a leader that has some sense in their head. Exact same thing I've been saying. Mayet's comments comes days after UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres warned that Ukraine conflict risks plunging tens of millions into famine. Global hunger levels are at a new high. In addition to Russia's invasion of Ukraine are the issues of climate change and the COVID-19 pandemic, which have compounded a crisis that could last for years, he warned. Last week, G7 countries launched a global alliance for food security with the World Bank to coordinate a short-term response that would avert famine. And I'm sure many of you have been hearing about this, the baby formula shortage. This is just opinion from Wall Street Journal. And it just talks about baby formula is a target for shoplifting rings. Its supply has been disrupted by COVID lockdowns. Its pattern of demand has been thrown for a loop by pandemic-spawned changes in retailing and baby making. Add the fact that half the U.S. supply is consumed by welfare recipients who are limited by regulation to a choice of 3 manufacturers. Add federal rules that make it hard to relieve a domestic shortage by importing foreign-made supplies. So, I mean, we got babies, that can't, get the milk they need and such. And so this is very grim, y'all. I mean, people not being able to feed themselves, people not being able to take care of their families. I mean, just imagine being a parent and, your family is starving, I mean, a lot of us in America, haven't experienced that. I mean, through certain time periods, people have experienced that, whether you've had great grandparents that lived through the Great Depression or whatnot, where they had to ration out food and such. But this is very grim, and I hope that you all are taking care of yourself and taking necessary precautionary measures to be able to take care of your families. I was just in Costco the other day. I saw baby formula. I have a baby on the way, and I was thinking okay, well, let me buy one. So I bought one, and the price was pretty high. I was like, I don't know if they usually cost that much or what, but I bought a pack of it. Then my wife and I went there a couple of days later, went to the baby aisle. The rest of that formula was gone. And I was just like, wow, people are really buying this up and stuff. And so, luckily my wife is breastfed our daughter, and we're looking to do that again. She's looking to do that again with our kid, but she's planning to do that again. So hopefully that works out. But yeah, this stuff is getting serious, y'all, and I hope that y'all are taking the necessary measures that you need to take. This channel isn't only about finance; it's about the macro environment, and how it affects our lives, our freedoms, our finances are part of that. Inflation's high, gas prices are rising. And so I just want to encourage you all to continue to think, act, and prosper. When I mention this stuff on this channel, I'm hoping that you all are taking action. So I hope that you all enjoyed this video. Be sure to hit the like button, comment, engage, subscribe, and y'all have a blessed day. All right, peace.